The skies over Beirut are once again filled with smoke. Israeli warplanes are striking the Lebanese capital. Thousands are fleeing. Diplomatic efforts are hanging by a thread. And the Middle East is once again staring into the abyss. On June 1st, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered fresh strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs, a move that immediately raised fears of a wider regional war and threatened ongoing U.S.-led diplomatic efforts involving Lebanon, Hezbollah, Iran, and Israel. But this wasn't an isolated attack. It was the latest chapter in a conflict that has already transformed Lebanon. Since fighting reignited on March 2nd, more than 3,000 people have reportedly been killed in Israeli strikes across Lebanon. Even multiple ceasefires, first announced on April 8th and then reaffirmed by Washington on April 15th, couldn't stop the bloodbath on streets of Beirut. Among the dead are more than 200 children, nearly 300 women, and over 110 healthcare workers. More than 1.2 million people have been displaced from their homes. So why does Netanyahu keep escalating? And is the Israeli Prime Minister becoming increasingly isolated from the international community? For Netanyahu, the answer is straightforward. Security. Israel argues that Hezbollah has repeatedly violated ceasefire arrangements by firing rockets and drones into northern Israel. Hezbollah's drone attacks have killed more than 20 Israeli soldiers since starting of the conflict. Israeli officials say no sovereign nation can tolerate sustained attacks on its territory. And Netanyahu has made it clear that as long as Hezbollah continues firing, Israel will continue striking. But critics argue that the scale of Israel's response has gone far beyond retaliation. In late May alone, Israel launched more than 120 airstrikes across Lebanon in a single day, one of the heaviest bombardments seen in weeks. Israeli forces have also expanded ground operations deeper into Lebanese territory and recently seized the historic Beaufort Castle, marking Israel's deepest advance into Lebanon in decades. Meanwhile, entire regions of southern Lebanon are being emptied out of fear. Dozens of towns and villages, roughly 1/5 of the country, have been depopulated through a combination of airstrikes and evacuation orders. And this is where the controversy intensifies, because the strikes are not happening in a diplomatic vacuum. The United States has spent weeks trying to negotiate a framework to reduce tensions between Israel and Hezbollah. On June 1st, Washington proposed a plan under which Hezbollah would halt attacks on Israel, and Israel would stop escalating operations in Beirut. U.S. President Donald Trump himself intervened and affirmed that both parties had agreed for a ceasefire. Lebanese officials publicly backed the effort, and Hezbollah signaled support for a broader ceasefire. Yet fresh Israeli military action followed almost immediately after intercepting 2 projectiles near Lebanon border. The consequences were immediate. Iran suspended indirect negotiations with the United States and warned that continued attacks in Lebanon could derail wider regional diplomacy. Which brings us to the second question. Is Benjamin Netanyahu becoming a global pariah? For years, Benjamin Netanyahu has built his political identity around one promise. Only strength can guarantee Israel's survival. And today, that doctrine is once again being tested on the streets of Lebanon. Israeli leaders argue that Hezbollah continues to launch attacks against northern Israel, and that military action is necessary to protect Israeli citizens. But critics say every new strike pushes Israel deeper into diplomatic isolation. And increasingly, even some of Israel's closest allies appear worried. Behind closed doors, U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly exploded at Netanyahu over Israel's escalating military campaign in Lebanon. The Trump administration has spent months pursuing a diplomatic track with Iran, hoping to stabilize the region, reopen critical shipping routes, and avoid a wider Middle East war. Multiple reports indicate that Trump's team viewed escalation in Lebanon as a direct threat to those negotiations. The political stakes for Netanyahu are enormous. At home, he faces continuing political pressure, criticism over the handling of multiple conflicts, and questions about Israel's long-term strategy. Abroad, international criticism has intensified as fighting spreads across multiple fronts. Netanyahu still commands support from major allies and maintains that Israel is fighting an existential battle against Iran-backed groups across the region. But what is undeniable is this. The list of governments, diplomats, and international voices criticizing Israeli actions continues to grow. The result is a growing paradox. The more Netanyahu argues that military force is necessary to secure Israel's future, the more questions emerge about whether that strategy is isolating Israel in the present. And as missiles continue to fly over Lebanon, one thing is becoming clear. The battle is no longer only about Hezbollah, or Iran, or Beirut. It is also about whether Benjamin Netanyahu's vision for the region still has the backing of the world, and increasingly, whether it still has the backing of Washington itself.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.